Oh my god, I still can't believe it's finally happening. I'm literally looking at the noodle drawing I did when I was like 14 probably, or 15. This is crazy. Hello and welcome to review the much long anticipated album. I personally was waiting for this album for 7 long years and now it's here. Gorillaz finally have shared their newest music release, a studio record called Humanz, with a Z of course, because Gorillaz, but not really. We'll get back to the title of the album later on in this review. Every record by Gorillaz has an element of social political commentary intervened in it. Let it be a modern passiveness to the outside world, or how we all consume garbage all the time. Put on their debut record, for example, a lot of thoughts on it. Could be considered pretty up to date, even though it's been 16 years. Even the idea of creating this virtual band project in the late 90s appeared when Damon Albarn, back then very famous for being a frontman of Blur, and very known British cartoonist Jamie Hewlett, were watching MTV and were disgusted by how manufactured all pop star boy bands seemed. With Humanz, the legend goes that going into this album's recording, Damon asked each and every collaborator on the album to imagine a night where everything that you believed was turned on its hat, which was at that time contextually put into what if Donald Trump actually wins the election? What would America's and the world's reactions be? Would you cry? Would you party? Would you be depressed? Would you be alone? Would you be with your loved ones? The dystopian near-futuristic fairy tale it was, which unfortunately to many turned out to be pretty fucking true back in November last year. That is the anecdote that Damon tells in each interview they do, because it's a damn good story to share for a promotion. But the thing is that the very same Damon Albarn and the team of very talented producers invited to work on this release, Twilight Dap and Rami Kabaka, they edited all possible Trump references out of this record, along with any other present events mentioned. For the sake of this record to be conceptual, yet again timeless like all of their records, for people to be able to put it during Kanye's presidential election maybe, along with God knows who else, as well as after some huge worldwide tragic event, which we all hope won't ever happen, but you know, we can predict the future. The main concept of Humanz is the end of the world party feeling. The dystopian vibe that always has been following this project's art, but increased 100% more. Dancing in the rise and joy of chaos, seeking for peace and humanity and unity at the worst times possible. And on that party, Gorillaz, as the great masters of finding good collaborations, they form an extensive and varied guest list, which is probably this album's main selling point. Half of the guests on the record present this fresh, bold, creative part of modern music. We have Vince Staples, we have drum, Pop Can, Benjamin Clementine, Zebra Cat, Skylar Kish, Rag & Bone Man, Caliuchis, Ray Black, Kalela, Danny Brown, and Savage's frontwoman Jenny Bath. The other half shows just how cool and white Damon's and his team's phone books are, which famous music veterans they can reach. There's Mavis Staples, Grace Jones, Pusha T, Carly Simon, Anthony Hamilton, Jamie Principle, Peven Everett, and of course, Gorillaz' longtime collaborators, Del Sol. This list of people coming from different generations and different live and musical backgrounds coming together for creating something like that is impressive on its own. But I see this variation as well as something to get this universal and timeless feeling once again. It doesn't allow this record to be completely futuristic, though a lot of people think it sounds exactly like that, especially due to abandonment of any acoustic instrumentation. But in my opinion, all the keyboards, all the iPad sounds, all synthesized machinery, weird vocals full of different effects, this is not that futuristic anymore. This is very much more present. So from any above, Humanz tried to sound as present as possible, as now as possible, yet not connecting with anything that close, like for example mentioning Obama, Trump, Orlando, to stay universal and age good. Though, does that really work? That's a good question, and I'll come back to it. Other thing I wanted to point out about the collaborators. I'm very proud to see so many females on the record. Probably very first time it's like that. On Plastic Beach we had only Little Dragon. On the debut, none at all. And on Demon Days, just a few. Here though, on Humanz, we have all these incredible females who completely steal the attention and dominate some of the songs, which works both well as the possible anti-Trump statement and as being an amazing, vocally diverse record. All these people are great, talented musicians, and it's so cool that they're on the album. But the thing is, I feel like they're also the problem of it. I remember seeing the track list for the very first time and thinking, wow, either Damon Albarn and team worked really hard to make all those people really fit into the Gorillaz music world, because they're all so different and there's so many of them, or some of it will sound really messy. And unfortunately, there are moments on the record which do sound messy, and which makes this release sound more like a mixtape or a playlist rather than a whole, united, cohesive album record. It's not a tragedy in 2017 though, where we do have so many mixtape releases and even a playlist release. I'm talking about Drake, of course. His More Alive still doesn't really make full sense to me as a release, and I feel like the problem there is the same. With Humanz and with Gorillaz, I just didn't really expect it, because who wouldn't want the album culture death less than Damon Albarn? And here they do try hard to make this one a connected record. They put this little tiny connections between the songs, like those jungle sounds between Andromeda and Busted in Blue. And they put 6 interludes plus the additional one in the deluxe version, all narrated by the amazing Ben Mendelsohn, by the way. And if you are interested to know, my personal favorite interlude is a non-conformist oath. It's pretty funny. But even with all the interludes and connections, it doesn't sound whole and it messes up the feeling. The other side of it, it could be intentional too, considering the topic of the album and its concept. So if it is, then I congrats the producers, because their album sounds chaotic as fuck. It's not album's only problem too. Don't think that I didn't like the record though, I loved it. Ascension, beautiful opener track, really captures this running from apocalypse feeling. Vince Staples delivers amazing bars, taking the role of some sort of modern streets philosopher. Damon as the yet so known and yet so loved British melancholy vibe, and it's a beautiful and bold electronic track. Strobe Light will be really loved by all the funk and soul enthusiasts, and maybe even those who really want the disco craze back. I'm not a huge fan of Strobe Light, but I definitely can imagine myself dancing to it at some sort of party, because it's very groovy, even a little bit sexy, and I believe they will put out some sort of remix version of it, which will make everybody go cray cray. Then SATURNZ BARZ, of course, which really stands out from all previous Gorillaz collaborations. The dance hall and Popcan's autotune are all so very new. Yeah, the song formula is very familiar. It worked perfectly on Feel Good Inc. from Demon Days, when in a short period of time people who hated hip-hop and didn't understand it suddenly woke up and realized the greatness of it. I remember that because I was one of them. SATURNZ BARZ shows to a not so educated and dancehall just how awesome it could be on its own and mixed with something else. And that it's not all about Drake and radio hits / background music now. I remember hearing an interview about how hard it was to record it, how they went to Jamaica and experienced all the best they could there with Popcan and his team. But in the end, it was all worth it. It's a definite hit from the album. Momentz track really reminded me of Superfast Jellyfish from Plastic Beach. It was the exact same first listen reaction I got. First time listening to those tracks, the only thing you're asking is, what the actual fuck is that? From which angle do I try to take this track? Do I try to understand this track? Comprehend that track? Yet notice that Superfast Jellyfish is one of my most favorite tracks on Plastic Beach. And re-listening to Momentz for about 15 times now, I like this track a lot. It got to me, and I'm still pretty confused by the huge thump, the moments, chants, all the Jean-Michel Jarre synths, layers of synths, thousands of layers of synths, and those weird, obnoxious pre-chorus vocals. Yet, that's probably the magic of Gorillaz, but I do like this track. Kind of the same with Submission. It didn't really stand out to me the first time I've heard it, and I still can't really call it my absolute favorite track on the record. Though I do ultimately appreciate Kelela's beautiful vocals. It really reminded me of Little Dragon and Plastic Beach. I feel like those are kind of similar. And my favorite, Danny Brown, really fitting in with his psych up bars layered on those quirky synth points. I think what's turning me off here is perhaps the production choice. It's not that it's produced badly, it's just produced weirdly. And there are parts that ruin the magic for me, like the pre-Danny's verse instrumental break and the abrupt out of nowhere ending of the track. But I've discovered if you loop it, then it sounds endless. So maybe that was the point, talking more about the playlist type of releases. And if you don't loop it, it changes smoothly to the next great track, one of the best tracks on the record, which is Charger. It's fucking fantastic. First of all, the dirty, waspish fuzz guitar riffs brings me back to tracks like Punk by Gorillaz, which is one of my favorite tracks by Gorillaz, by the way. Then, of course, the incredible, the magical, the legendary Grace Jones. Her feature is not even that big or consistent, but it's still amazing, and she totally owns this track with her improvised, going crazy lyrics. Plus, talking the concept, it's probably the most on the edge of madness track. And I'm talking like Mad Max madness level. There are some weird mixing parts, like when the last chorus appears out of nowhere, undefined, but I guess it works fine due to all the mayhem of the track. Anyhow, the electropunk asylum of Charger is 100% one of the best moments on Humanz, and I'm kind of dying to see the visuals they could pull out on it. I pray they decide to visualize it in the form of a music video. Please make this a single. It was made to be one. Andromeda track really brings out good modern EDM feelings, and lyrically quite darker topics. I like how the light-hearted, carefree beats meet the more melancholy tones of Damon's voice and hardly noticeable drum feature. And that way it does remind me a little bit of On Melancholy Hill, but kind of mixed with Tomorrow Comes Today, I guess. It's also much more club music infused. It's a dance record after all. And this connection to the next track with this wilderness sounds, it's pretty beautiful. Busted in Blue track, leaving all the crickets and jungle noises, floats into this incredibly beautiful solo, slower piece about perhaps resignation and this glassy-eyed, heartbreaking loneliness. The synth palette of this track is gorgeous, along with Damon's vocals and the thunder effect thrown into the middle, sad lyricism, and amazing Kelela on the back vocals. The track itself is no doubt one of the best cuts on the record, leaving me no choice but to speak about album's Another Problem. Kind of connected with the first one, number of guests here. I miss the actual Gorillaz on this record. The end of the world party feels overcrowded, and neither four characters or even Damon feel like the main leads anymore, as the provocateurs of the whole thing. More like the curators who stand in the shadow party corner enjoying what they've created. A track like Busted in Blue, which is the only one solo track on the record. Even this one though has Kelela on back vocals, so it leaves all these great possibilities of sounds and themes with no additional personalities, only to listeners' imagination. Perhaps this album needs just a bit more space for solo sound, or a little bit less guests taking the spotlight. I think that way maybe it could work really well from like the instant first listen. Though you have to know that I absolutely love Busted in Blue. A lot of tracks on the album are quite short, like this Carnival track with the incredible Anthony Hamilton. It could work really well as the darker part of the record, but its structure and the chorus are a bit of a mess. Though I did like the verses, taking lots of listens of the track, but sadly it's album's weaker moment, especially considering how short this track is. Let Me Out though is album's definite hit, another hit. The glitchy, spooky-ish gospel with Pusha T dropping skeptical bars and Mavis staples, giving us all hope for the better future. Damon really fits in well with those two, which is a huge plus for how well everything came together on this track. Some synths and the choruses could sound a bit outdated, but the beat coming on Damon's parts fixes everything for me. I was really surprised with my listening experience through Sex Murder Party track. I didn't really get this one first, but now it's one of my ultimate favorites on the record. I like how it takes the club darker atmosphere and plays it off within all the parts of the track. The menacing background synths and drum beats, Zebra Cat's quite sad observations of his partner, Damon repeating the chorus as some sort of hazy mantra, being seems to me like dissatisfied or disappointed in everything. Jamie Principal's playing the role of some sort of demon gathering heartbroken souls to the dance floor with his sexy vocals, but at the same time being trapped in this masquerade. It's my favorite kind of dark club music, and I live. Synth progression and the sad pop appeal of She's My Caller, Kaliuch's incredible vocal delivery, plus the fact that Damon actually sings on the half of this track. It makes this one of the better cuts on the album, one of its catchy hits as well. Thematically though, conceptually, you could start losing the sense of the apocalyptic party only appearing on some lines about running away together. But I mean, there are a bunch of questions raising up about how it all fits to the actual storyline. I love this track though. She's My Caller is incredible. The pre-release Hallelujah Money now indeed makes much more sense now in the track list. The incredible Benjamin Clementine both dooms us with his beautiful tenor for the present horror, which is our life now, and kind of empowers us for the better things to come. Special thanks to the gospel choir and bells ringing in the background. The ending of Humanz sees the morning light after the non-stop chaotic party. The lyrics sound equally painful and hopeful. If this is the end, then so shall it be. But when the morning comes, we are still human. And the empowering synth pop anthem, We Got the Power, only increases this feeling. It's super inspiring. Jenny Bath sounds like a true female lead hero, shouting quotes in French, raising everybody to march with her. Damon even gathers his old-time rival, Noel Gallagher, standing right next to him, enjoying the unity and the power of music they created. It does really make you believe that we all can get together no matter our differences and our past troubles, and the thought of it is very beautiful and special. The normal version of the album ends on this positive note, but the deluxe version has 6 more tracks, which are no less exciting to talk about, but half of those do sound like the deluxe material. Like halfway of the Halfway House, a relatively long track, which even Piva Never doesn't make this one a particular hit. Though the vocal delivery is incredible, but the instrumental is confusing and even could be a little bit unsettling. The appearing beat seems to grow up to something huge, which never really happens. Ticker Tape is sweet and cute. Damon's vocals are really nice, as well as guest vocalists, both at beautiful female vocal patterns, but it does sound messy instrumentally at some moments and doesn't catch the ear that much. Maybe because we are just too overloaded with everything at this point. The ending, Circle of Friends, brings out great message, same as We Got the Power, but its short gospelish vibe doesn't really stand out that much, and the message just eventually runs out for so many repeats. But anyway, there are a couple of tracks which I absolutely love, like the sexy, groovy, the synth heavy Apprentice. It sounds fantastic. I really rediscovered Rag and Bone Man's great vocals and Ray Black. She sounds amazing, and I love the strong charisma Zebra Cat brings to this track. And finally, my favorite track from the deluxe, and arguably one of the best tracks on the whole album, is Out of Body. It's super fun and really weird, stylistically a bit, and in a way of vocal delivery, it does remind me of something that PC Music or Cara Cara Bonito could have done. I absolutely love the quirkiness of its instrumental, Kylo's really lovely vocals, instructioning us on how to party right and losing our minds while dancing. And Zebra Cat, again, is very eerie, letting out this smoke into the darkness of this club. This track does feel like an out-of-body dancing experience, and I absolutely love it. And Humanz ends on this. It might be a little bit light on some of the Spotify friendly hooks. The production might sound a bit confusing because all the producers, they do experiment with all those synthesized sounds. Too busy making all the fellow musicians fit into this apocalyptic party, forgetting maybe that this also should be about Gorillaz themselves, as we know them, we love them, we remember them from a while back. But hey, the more you listen to Humanz, the more you start to understand it and appreciate the Phase 4. It's excessively rich and huge. Dame and Janie and their team, being in their 30s, 40s, after all this time, after so much work, they managed to create this world, colorful and youthful. Yes, as far as they've tried to make it quite abstract, inviting all the famous, big known names, it does still sound more fresh, more vibrant, more vivid. Drawing the future rather more defined than it's supposed to do. And it's not necessarily a mistake of this album. I find it a plus. Though it could get difficult for this album to age as good as, for example, Demon Days or Plastic Beach. My recommendations for those ones who really wanted to like this album but was a bit disappointed is try to imagine it as a party mixtape rather than a conceptual album. Re-listen to it, sit in with it, reread the lyrics, listen to the voices and to the synth palettes, and you could really make yourself much more comfortable and an actual part of this brilliantly constructed chaos. And you will understand the reason why it's called Humanz. You will see that all the four, unfortunately, fictional characters, they stand outside this trendy house party club, inviting you in for a listen to their much more human world-based music. Humanz does not tell the story of their cartoon world, but of our world, full of cartoon characters, good and evil. What do you think about this release? I am really dying to know. Try to put down your first listen thoughts, then dive deeper into the record and think about what has changed. What do you like about this record? And what maybe you don't like about it. Also, don't forget to like and to share this video, as well as to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Twitter, for example. Thank you so much for all the support and all the kind words, really appreciate it. And remember that we are still humans, with a Z, of course. Peace out.